Square Enix has finally gotten around to releasing Final Fantasy XVI on the PC. In today's video, I'll show you how the game performs in a starter town, which graphics settings are best to use, what you should expect when playing this game on the Steam Deck, and at the end, I have an extra bonus performance mod that can help boost the FPS up a little bit. Final Fantasy XVI is finally available on Steam right now for $50, but you can get the complete edition, which includes the Rising Tide and Echoes of the Fallen DLC for $70 total. As of recording this video, the game is labeled as Unsupported for the Steam Deck, which Valve says is due to it not being able to be configured to run well on the device. However, as I've gotten to play more and more of the game, I've learned that it can be set up to hit over 30 frames per second for the majority of the game. Yes, it will drop down to around 27 frames per second in larger fights and while traversing in some crowded cities, but when the gameplay counts, Final Fantasy XVI is usually able to stay above 30 frames per second. Now, I will say that the major downside here is that cutscenes tend to run horribly on the Steam Deck, with performance dropping to the low 20s and sometimes even to around 12 FPS. But in my experience so far, this does not cause the cutscene to become laggy or actually stutter, so you will likely just notice that the animation is not being as fluid as one would like. The poor performance in these areas that I've seen make me think that Square will be able to push out a few more updates to the game in an attempt to improve its performance and optimize the cutscenes. And I suspect the removal of De Novo could actually fix many of these performance issues. Now, with all of that said, I have yet to experience any crashes, and seeing such a graphically intensive game running on the Steam Deck is quite impressive. And I do suspect there will still be many people completing the game on the Steam Deck if they are a huge fan of the series. So first, let's go over the graphics settings for Final Fantasy XVI so that it's playable on the Steam Deck. It's going to be incredibly difficult to play the game without some sort of upscaling enabled. You could try and drop the resolution down to 800 by 500, but honestly, that won't make much of a difference. We have super resolution set to AMD FSR 3, dynamic resolution enabled, sharpness is up. We're keeping AMD FSR 3 frame generation disabled, since enabling that feature actually causes stutter during gameplay. I'm capping the frame rate at 60. I have motion blur down, vignettes off, chromatic aberration off. All graphics settings are going to be set to low. We have screen space reflection off, ambient occlusion off, bloom shader off, and variable rate shading on. So far, I've noticed screen mode set to windowed is the best, and VSync is going to stay enabled. Now, of course, having everything down set to low is not going to look as pretty as it does on a desktop PC with a beefy video card. But these settings make the game more than acceptable on a handheld console like the Steam Deck. Now, I don't want this video to be longer than it needs to be, so let me know down in the comment section below if there's any demand for a full gameplay video. I can even show a before and after comparison for how the game runs normally compared to how it runs after the bonus performance tweak is enabled. So speaking of that performance tweak, there is an unofficial FSR 3.1 mod that we can trigger by changing a few things. First, you want to switch the game over to Proton GE, and then give the game a special launch option as follows. WINEDLLOVERRIDES equal quote version equals n comma b end quote space percentage command percentage. And I'll be sure to have this entire launch option pasted in the video description below for anyone who wants an easy way to copy it. This DLSS mod using Proton GE is said to be able to get the game running around 50 to 60 frames per second in most fights. But again, cutscenes and crowded town areas are so poorly optimized that you may still want to wait until it has received a few updates. Square Enix was not happy with the revenue they were able to bring in from the launch of Final Fantasy XVI, and I know I have not been happy with their staggered releases, and I think that they could do much better by releasing their games on the PlayStation and on the PC at the same time. While I had hoped that this delay would have given them more time to optimize the game, it's clear that something is causing an issue by the performance of these cutscenes. And with Final Fantasy games relying so heavily on cutscenes for its story, it makes it difficult to recommend this to anyone who is only able to play it on the Steam Deck. So please go ahead and like this video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I will definitely be doing a follow-up video in the future when the company is able to smooth out some of these issues.